Hello everyone, this is Dr. Vineet Kumar Purohit from Mahavir Institute of Technology and Science, Jharkhand, Pali. Today in this lecture, we shall come to know about one of the very important levels of human values, that is body and self. In the last lecture, we got to know about the four important levels of the harmony in human levels. First one was the body and self, second family, third society, and fourth was the nature. So in this lecture, we are going to know about a very unique and new concept about the coexistence of body and self, which is known as I. Human beings, we do know that the body is only the important factor, the unit that is going to require all the things, and we are going to plan our needs according to the body. So we are going to know something new also, that is about the self, that whatever is required by the body, if the things are seriously required by the body or are being insinuated or observed by some aliveness, the aliveness which is also known as self, I. So let's check out. We are going to make a list over here to come to know and distinguish what the self and what the body is over here. uh, what the body requires or what the human beings do require in their life. It may be food, clothes, house, happiness, honesty, feelings, touch. What all these things are. If we start segregating food, house, clothes, undoubtedly are going to be the prime requirements of our body. But what about the trust, respect, happiness, comfort, where all these needs are going to be? So we can come to know that it is actually required by that particular sense, the sense in the body, the sense, the aliveness, the observance of particular power, which is going to require all these things like happiness, trust, respect, which is stored somewhere, and that is going to give us the comfort. So we can come to know that the requirements and the needs of the self and the body are different. Body is taking the suggestions or the directions from some aliveness, some observer, and then start demanding the wishes, the needs, the objects according to the instruction of some aliveness that is going to observe us. So let's discuss this particular thing in the detail in the next slide. I hope there we are going to know so many things. In this next slide, number one, harmony in the human being on the basis of the self and body will be read by us. In the next slide, again, so many things will be explained. See, on the top of the slide, it is written that human being, that is the coexistence of the self and the body. Here we shall come to know about the needs of the self and the needs of the body, particularly. The need of the self is happiness, respect, etc. etc. But the needs of the body are physical facilities like food, clothes, etc. Now we shall come to know these needs of the self and the body, which is actually in the coexistence, that they live together on the basis of the time and the quantity. When we check if the human being requires the happiness and the respect for time period or for on the continuous basis, so the answer is like it is continuous. We don't actually require the happiness and the respect in parts or in chunks or partially, no. While the needs of the body are temporary, because like 24 hours we are not going to eat the food, 24 hours the other needs are not going to be fulfilled. there is going to be a break in between. It means like it is not the continuous, it is temporary. And if we check out the same needs in the form of the quantity, the happiness cannot be measured as like 1 kg respect, 1 kg happiness, half kg trust. No. It is basically going to be measured in the form of feelings, that is qualitative, whereas the needs of the body are measured or are fulfilled in quantitative manner. That 1 kg water, 1 liter water, or 1 kg rice, and something like that. In the next slide, we can discuss it in detail. In the next slide, we can discuss the things in detail. Here, the needs are going to be again same, but we are going to come to know that how, on the basis of the time and on the basis of the quantity, the needs will be fulfilled in the self that is known as I, that is the conscious entity, on the basis of the right understanding, which is what we have already discussed and read about right understanding, which is going to come from the natural acceptance. But in the form of the body, the things are fulfilled, the needs basically, sorry, are fulfilled by the physico chemical things, that material objects, that what actually human being require, what is their priority. Undoubtedly, both the needs are very important, but the right understanding is going to make us or take us towards the human consciousness. This is what like we ended up the last uh, lecture, video lecture last time. And here I would like to say that right understanding is going to help us to manage our physicochemical things and the needs of self and the need of body also. Yeah, in the next slide again, we are going to know that the activity, the vivid activities which are taking place in human beings in the coexistence of the self and body. Yeah, the self and the body are going to have the separate activities, their individual activities. Like in the self, what we do, we desire, we thought, we expect about a particular notion, about a particular action. While in body, we can check out the activities like eating, walking, digesting, excrete, and many other activities are going on. These activities, in the form of the time, the activities. Earlier, we read about the needs in the form of time. Now, we are reading the activities in the form of time, in the term of time. The activities of the self are continuous. Like the desire, thought, and expectation will go on and on and on and on. While the activities of the body, like eating and walking and breathing, are going to be temporary because there is going to be a little bit pause every time we are not found eating or sleeping or walking. Every time these actually activities are not performed, even there is a slight pause in breathing the air in and out while we are inhaling. And yes, the scientists also have proved that without the break, it is not feasible to survive for the human beings on the earth. Yeah, so in the next slide, undoubtedly, we are going to see the things clearly in detail. Please, yes, what are the responses? Like after the needs, after the activity, we are also going to know about the responses, what the responses are. Responses basically like how the things are responded, how the activities in the terms of uh, body or in the terms of self are uh, having the repercussions. Like when we talk about the body actually recognizes the things and fulfill, like the food. We feel that particular notion, insinuation comes from the self, the mouth, the the intestine. They feel that yeah, the food is there, and yes, they start chewing, and we are satisfied. Okay, so in the part of the body, like it is recognizing and fulfilling. But in the part of the self, it is not only satisfied with the help of the recognizing and fulfilling. No, it is having the four elements. It is having the four responses. It starts with knowing. When you have known the facts completely, and on the basis of our knowing or our knowledge, we start assuming, like the desire and the thought will be based upon our assuming. And then we start recognizing and then we fulfill the things. So it is a complete and accurate process. It starts with knowing and ends with the fulfilling. If these things are handled on the basis of the self, there would not be like any error committed or blunder committed by the human beings. But nowadays, we think that the human beings are involved or occupied or insinuated towards or pointed towards assuming only. We start with assuming and then we recognize and then we fulfill. So here we are actually committing a lot of blunders, which we are going to read in the next slide undoubtedly, because uh, here, yeah, this slide is telling us the four elements, the four responses are mentioned clearly on the top of the slide. Knowing, assuming, recognizing, and fulfilling. Yes, assuming, this is what all the human beings are doing today. They are skipping the knowing. When we skip the knowing, that is actually the fact of the truth. If we avoid that and we start with assuming, that is actually the beginning of the problem. And this particular problem at that moment, like we forget the education, we forget the sanskar, we forget the right understanding that is missing over here. And that is the root of all the problems. That is actually the root of all the problem, because that starts with the preconditioning, that start with the assumption that we assume something, whatever, some scriptures, books, people, or the religion, whatever actually they say, and we start actually following that. Eh, if we start with assuming, it means like we are not actually involved in self exploration. But if we start our doing, performing any action with the help of the knowing, that is going to come from a self explorations, that is going to come from natural acceptance, and that particular that particular thing is going to give us the solution, and that is going to make all the things correct. Otherwise it is going to be very much actually difficult to survive. And that is why like we people are in stress, we are depressed, and the things around us are not cool. Yeah, can we have the next slide please? Over there in the next slide I can feel that I shall be able enough to tell you so many things. Yeah, this is what like the things that we have already you know gone through. We have already gone through like in the terms of time. Yes. So like after going through, we can come to know that what is our gross misunderstanding today. We think that the human beings are only body. No, that is not. Human being is actually the coexistence of the self and body both together. What our needs are, the respect physical facility. No, not only physical facility. We require the feelings also. We require the feelings also. We think that the needs are actually unlimited or something like that. Physical facility, accumulation, storage. No. The needs actually of the self are continuous, while the needs of the body are continual. That actually like stops and starts again. So uh, when we follow actually the yellow one rectangles, that is going to take us towards the deprivation. We will be like too much deprived. But if we keep both the things together and the things are actually coming from the right understanding, we will be happy. Yes, next slide. Over there, we shall come to know. Yeah, this is actually the sum up over here that whatever we have done. So undoubtedly in this another PPT, we shall be coming to know so many newer things also, like the needs, like the body as the instrument only, which is being guided and observed by the self. So in the next slide, yes, again, we are going to know the coexistence of the self and the body over here. Yes, next slide, please. It is the recap. I feel that yes, we are reading about the self and the body, the needs actually in the self and of the body in the terms of time are continuous, whereas the body are temporary. The needs are qualitative, like in the form of feelings in self, and that is limited, which are fulfilled by right understanding in self, whereas in body it is physicochemical. The activity of the self are desire, thought, expectation, while in body it is eating, walking, etc. The desire thought are continuous, that is actually going on and on, whereas like it is continual in the form of body, in the term of body. Yeah, till responses I hope like we are done. We can start up the newer slide, the slide which is going to tell us that the body is basically an instrument only. The body is only an instrument for the self. The self is the main power. Yeah, in the next slide, I hope we shall be coming to know. Yes, here. The next slide is actually, can we have the previous slide, please? Yeah, here in the last line, in this particular slide, the responses like the knowing and assuming are telling us the consciousness. Recognizing and fulfilling, here I would like to give you an example that the cement actually recognizes the relationship of the water within itself. And then like when we mix and we get a very good batter to make our houses. But that is actually feasible with the material things, with the animals also. But when we talk about the human beings, about the self, about the knowledge, that is about the knowing and assuming, and that is actually the conscious statement. Now we can have this next slide, and over there we are going to, in the next slide, we shall be having, in the next slide, I hope we shall be having the clear concepts about that body is equal to I. Wrong. The clothes will give us the respect, and the facilities will give us the happiness. Facilities like the physical facilities. No, this is the gross misunderstanding. The next slide will tell us what is the righteous action for us. That body is basically an instrument only. Here, we were understanding that the body is actually the entire thing. Self is nothing there. Okay, but body is only the instrument. How we can see in the next slide. We shall be exploring here human being, that is the self and the body. I am, that is actually the self, and my body is, that is in the body. Self actually wants to live, body is used as an instrument. I want to live with the continuous happiness, that is actually the demand, the need of the self. Whereas, like in body, it requires the protection, it requires the nurturing, and it requires the right understanding. Like body over here is the instrument, actually the self, that is the sole power that is going to instruct every organ of the body. And then accordingly, that is used to perform that order, that particular action being taken by the self, and there over there the body becomes the instrument performing all the behests, the orders. To understand and to live in the harmony at all the four levels in the program for my continuous happiness, that is actually the demand of the self. Here, the body actually requires nurturing, proper nurturing, and protection with the help of the right utilization. For what? For production. For production and performing the tasks, performing the orders. Yeah. In the next slide, received by the self. Yeah. In the next slide. Okay. Here, yeah, the number fifth point that is telling us that I am the seer, doer, and enjoyer. Yeah, this is actually very important thing that we have to understand. That I is basically the seer. That I sees everything. I is the doer. Like I instruct and then body does. The I is basically the main doer, which is not seen by us. And after like seeing or after like doing, like the movie, like bike stunts, we get actually the enjoyment. Okay, so who is enjoying? I is basically enjoying. Body is only instrument in the case of seeing, like the eyes. eyes are basically the instrument of uh, by the body for I, that is self I'm talking about. With the help of which these activities which are performed, like in the case of doer, legs or mouth or listening like ears, all these actually organs of the body are used to perform a particular task. This is what like I stated, and that's why the I, the self, actually becomes over here a seer, doer, and we enjoy undoubtedly the main comfort, the sukha that actually goes to the self. Yeah, in the next slide we can explore this. Body is basically an instrument. This is what like I have already explained, how the body is basically seer, doer, and enjoyer. Yeah, in the next slide again we can have something. uh Activities of I, we have already come to know. Yeah, yeah, that is the next slide. That is correct. Yeah, the activities of the self are like the see, the desire, thought, and expectation. Here you can see like number one and number two, that is missing in this actually column, that is having a title on the top, that is force and power. Force or power, that is basically self. And on the basis of the desire we imagine something. Desire gives the birth to thought. Thought helps us to analyze something about a notion, and then we expect is basically like selecting and tasting. So see like these uh, activities will give actually the behavior and the work, and that is performed by the body. So we came to know that I is the seer, doer, and enjoyer. I actually use the body as instrument. So see, these activities we have come to know are taking place in self only. Okay. uh, let's say like the thought regarding making a house that comes into my mind, that is my desire that I need to have a house. Then I start imagining that how the house is going to look alike. Then the thought comes that that is going to give me the analysis that a 4 bedroom house must be there. Then like I will start expecting that I need to have all these things in my house: the curtain, the color combination, the furniture. That is basically selecting and tasting. So in this way, like we start thinking, that is by the help of our activity of the self, and then we start performing. And to perform something, we take the help. The I actually take the help of body. Okay, so in next slide, I hope like I can tell you so many things. Example to understand these activities. This is what I have already explained with the help of the house. Next slide, please. The activities of I are basically like desire, thought, and expectation. That is reflected by imaging, analyzing, and selecting, tasting. Next, please. These activities, that is basically the imagination. So, like here, the red circle is telling us what kind of the imagination that is coming to our mind, that is reflected in the form of the behavior and the work through the body, through the instrument. Again, like see, the number one and number two are missing. Uh, that is going to be cleared later on, not in this particular slide in lecture. Yes, next, please. Next, please. These are, yes, the activities of the this I, self, sensation, preconditioning, natural acceptance. Uh, Natural acceptance is undoubtedly, see, yeah, very good. Natural acceptance, if we, on the top of the, actually this slide, we can see something is written in the red above imaging. The self-verification on the basis of the natural acceptance. See, if something is coming from the self-exploration, what is that? That is the natural acceptance, which is what I have already expatiated in my previous lecture regarding unit first. If we do self-exploration regarding any notion, that is actually going to nourish and make clear and correct our imagination, our analyzing and selecting and tasting. But see, it is actually not seen nowadays in many of the human beings. we actually start imagining on the basis of the sensation that what we like, or on the basis of the preconditioning that something or somebody has said. Okay, when we are prejudiced, that is also like preconditioning. So the preconditioning and sensation are not going to give us the exact imagination, analysis, and selecting. So let's say like I start feeling that everybody is bad. Without exploration, how can I come to this conclusion? And on the basis of that, like when I imagine, I analyze, and I select. So that is actually reflected in a negative manner in my work and my behavior. So like basically now I would say that I am, you know, not swatantra, I am partantra. Like I am dependent on the basis of the sensation and preconditioning. That is really not good. We need to be like very particular about these things. If the notions are coming on the basis of natural acceptance, then we are swatantra, we are independent. Okay, next slide please. Next slide please. The problem today, everything is actually coming from sensation, and that is why we see people are found committing blunders. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Effects of the problem. Uh, like if we see the effects of the problem of like imagination, analyzing, and selecting on the basis of preconditioning and sensation, it is reflected everywhere. It is reflected everywhere. So like that is really not a good thing. That is really not a good thing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. What is the solution? The solution is only right understanding. Next slide, please. Here, when the things are actually coming, the imagination, analyzing, and selecting from natural acceptance, we will be independent. But if the imagination, analyzing, and selecting is coming, the desired thought and expectation are coming from preconditioning or sensation, yes, undoubtedly, it is very much problematic, and that is the common, picture of the society in today's world. Next slide. Next slide. Yeah, like these slides are actually telling us that what we people are supposed to do, and we will be getting the answer that what is supposed to be done and how it is supposed to be done from the natural acceptance. Next please. The harmony of the I with the body is that the self is body. The activities are like continuous in the form of time, and that is actually starting with knowing, assuming, and recognizing. But the scene is actually different in body. That is, the needs are basically material and those are temporary. That is recognizing and fulfilling. Next slide please. Yeah, this is also we have already done. Next slide please. Yeah, see, here it is like that is to be explained, that when we check the last two actually rectangles over here, that feeling of the responsibility for nurturing, protection, right understanding of the body, when it comes to us, it is about the food, clothes, shelter, the instruments. That is when it is understood with the help of the right understanding, the things will be like very okay. But if it is like coming without right understanding, we will not be focusing towards the proper nurturing, proper protection in the absence of right understanding. And that is going to create the disharmony with the body and the self. Yes, next slide, please. So here the time comes that we need to explore how the things will be like handled. We need to follow the Sayam and Swasthya here. Yes, the Sayama and Swasthya. Sayama is like discipline. If we follow the discipline, undoubtedly we can be very much happy. Next slide, please. We can be very, very, very happy. Prosperity, like this is what we have already understood, and we have like we have gone through this. That what is like the prosperity? It is not like the accumulation of the physical facility every time and anytime. Like it is basically like sharing of the excess materialistic objects. Those are with us, with others, with others, and that is actually making us prosperous. Next, please. The gross misunderstanding, like this is what we have already gone through. that what we are thinking, that body is the main thing, and like we require the unlimited physical facility. No, that is going to make us unhappy. Okay, next slide. A relook at the prosperity. Prosperity is basically the assessment of all the physical needs those are with us, and we require in limited amount. So what is the use of like storage? Instead of that, we need to share the things with others to preserve the nature and to be prosperous. Next, please. Prosperity is basically like when we start curtailing our needs. In that way, we can actually protect the nature. And if the nature has the ample resources to fulfill our needs, we will be prosperous. Next, please. Our state today is basically we are thinking about accumulation. And what the way out is, that is actually basic problem. We are not supposed to do that. Like we are not supposed to store. But the way out is like, uh, the way out is only that we can be happy on curtailing the needs to make to be prosperous. So on the basis of the sayama, we need to be self-organized. Next, please. The sayama and swasthya is like that. We need to like maintain the discipline. Okay, we need to actually, next slide, please. We need to actually ensure the right understanding. The right understanding, like how should we nurture the body, like in a proper manner, like whatever we are having, like the food, water, that should be like very pure. The air, that should be pure. Yes, uh, we can protect our body also. Understanding and living with the sayama. It is basically the program for the health, that what kind of the ahar, the labor, the exercise, the medicine that is to be like taken by us. Like we need to focus towards these things. That every time, like for the little bit actually headache or the aches, we are not supposed to have the medicine. We need to be like very sure that what kind of the food that is actually taken by us, will it be digested, will it be excreted easily. These are the things that we have to keep in mind. And yes, we need to focus towards the proper exercise and each and everything to keep our body very happy and okay also, to be prosperous, to be happy. And that is actually going to help the self to maintain the harmony between both the self and the body. Next slide, please. Yeah, undoubtedly, the right understanding will keep the body and the health and the self very happy to make the body as the instrument for the self. Yes, next, please. Yeah, this is the conclusion that body is basically the instrument, and we need to take a great care of it. And what actually the requirements of the body are physicochemical. So in that way, the food, the medicine, everything actually should be taken care of. The exercise should also, which will be like the perfect actually instrument for the self. So in that way, we understood today that the body is basically the coexistence of the self and body, and we need to make the harmony. Thanks a lot.